Welcome back to the Rules Plus podcast. In last week's episode, I likened the collection of NCAA football rules to a Rube Goldberg machine, a whimsical device designed to find the long way around for completing otherwise mundane tasks by presenting a bloated concoction of independent but consequential linear actions and reactions to do a simple job. Because of the ripple effect of one rule upon others, officials must depend on their knowledge of how interrelated, interdependent rules impact each other, much like the design of a Rube Goldberg machine. In this episode, I intend to build on the idea that we should resist treating rules as silos by introducing for analysis the first of 15 pairs of complementary concepts or procedures that I've identified in the rules book. I have chosen concept or procedure pairs whose elements have a special relationship as either analogs or mirror images of each other. I call them, for this and future episodes, rules siblings, meaning that they are next of kin that share a common root, but that may have evolved to fulfill separate, even if parallel, destinies. The question about each pair is whether they are good neighbors or quarreling siblings. Here are the 15 concept or procedure dyads that I think we could profitably consider over the course of many future episodes. Kicker versus passer. Illegal pass versus intentional grounding. Free kick versus scrimmage kick. Field goal versus point after touchdown. Field goal versus punt. Situations when the kick crosses the neutral zone and when a pass crosses the neutral zone. A post-TD kickoff versus a post-safety free kick. Fumble versus a muff. Illegal kick versus illegal kicking. Forward pass versus backward pass. False start versus stemming. Illegal touch versus illegal touching. Personal foul versus unsportsmanlike conduct. Regulation time versus overtime. And finally, touchback versus safety. Think of Cinderella's scheming stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, as the metaphor for this approach, which I'm referring to hereafter as the Siblings Project, as a part of the larger ongoing Neighbors Project to map the neighborhoods where aligned rules live. In analyzing each dyad, we should explore three questions. How are the two elements alike? How are they different? And is the interplay between them direct or contrasting, providing a template for making a ruling in parallel situations or not? Knowing the answers to these questions provides a good mnemonic device for recalling what to do when a game situation involves one or the other element of one of these dyads. So today, let's start at the top of the list. What can we learn about the similarities and differences between kickers and passers? Since my position as referee, I have a very selfish interest in examining this dyad, since each of these guys is my overriding responsibility every scrimmage play. In the view of the NCAA Rules Committee, are the roles of kicker and passer mostly or entirely alike or not? I'm going to consider the commonalities and differences in three respects. One, the definitions of the designations kicker and passer. Two, the special protections those designations afford the players. And three, the things players with those designations may and may not do. First consideration, definitions of the designations kicker and passer. Kicker. A kicker is any player who punts, drop kicks, or place kicks according to rule, and he remains so until he has had reasonable time to regain his balance. 227.3a. You can find the definitions of punt, drop kick, and place kick in 2:16:2 through 4. Passer. A passer is the player who throws a forward pass from the time the ball is released until the pass is complete, incomplete, or intercepted, or until he moves to participate in the play. 2:27:5. You can find definitions of a forward pass in 2:19:2 and of a legal and illegal forward pass in 7:3:1 and 7:3:2. Commonalities. Each player's designation is eponymous, that is, the player is named for what he does, and each player's designation is important because it provides special protection for him, as I'll discuss in a moment. Differences. The kicker's special designation may not last as long as a passer's does. The kicker morphs into a mere player when he has reasonable time to regain his balance. The passer morphs into a mere player based on the outcome of his pass, which, off the point here, but really interesting, we all know number 3, with 2 of the outcomes bad, supposedly first said by Darrell Royal, but also attributed by Royal and others to Woody Hayes. Now back to the point. 2:27:5 also says that the passer loses his designation if he moves to participate in the play, which he'd do only if he's intercepted and he has to decide if it's worth his health to try to tackle the returner. So that eventuality seems well covered by the outcome of an interception. So, to summarize, while a kicker becomes fair game in moments when he gets sound footing, the passer is still a protected species long after the ball has gone downfield. Consideration 2. Special protections afforded kickers and passers. First, the kicker. Special protection for players designated as kickers is provided by 9:116A. That protection ends if Team A is not in a scrimmage kick formation at the snap and it's not obvious that a scrimmage kick will be made. Or it ends otherwise under 4 other circumstances. When, as we have already seen, the kicker has had time to regain his balance, when the kicker carries or possesses the ball outside the tackle box, when the kicker carries or possesses the ball more than 5 yards behind his initial position at the snap, that's the rule change for this year, and when a defender who has touched the kick contacts the kicker. Now the passer. Special protection for the players designated as passers is elaborated upon in 9:19A, but none of the 5 provisions in that rule elaborates upon when that protection ends. That protection ends, as we have already seen, when that designation as a passer ends. Unlike for the kicker, Rule 9 adds no additional provisions for ending the passer's protection beyond what is provided in 2:27:5. Commonalities. You might be thinking by now that, in the view of the NCAA Rules Committee, kickers are the Rodney Dangerfield of football, especially in comparison to the rock stars of football who throw breathtaking passes to wideouts streaking downfield. But you'd be jumping to a conclusion in view of the relatively recent designation by the Rules Committee of the concept of a defenseless player, covered in considerable detail in 2:27:14. Introducing this concept has direct implications for the definitions of kicker and passer we just considered. Both kickers and passers are eligible to be in this protected class. Quote, a defenseless player is one who, because of their physical position and focus of concentration, is especially vulnerable to injury. Defenseless players include, but are not limited to, an offensive player in a passing posture with focus downfield, and a kicker in the act of or just after kicking the ball or during the kick or the return. End quote. In view of the added layer of protection kickers and passers enjoy since the advent of the defenseless player philosophy, I wonder why the Rules Committee has not made editorial changes to the definition of kicker and passer to simplify and align these two designations to reflect that the protection afforded kickers and passers is effectively consistent in scope and duration. Differences. But that's not the end of the story. It may yet be true that passers still enjoy more respect from the Rules Committee with the recent additional designation of a, quote, player in a passing posture, end quote, 919B, which adds additional protection for passers, but not kickers, against forcible hits at or below the knees. So even with the provision for defenseless players, the provision for players in a passing posture means kickers can more easily lose their special protection than can passers. Kickers who move or who are hit by a defender who has touched the ball receive no special consideration anymore. Passers who move or who are hit by a defender who has touched the ball may still receive special consideration. The bottom line is we can protect kickers and passers alike in most respects, except when something goes terribly wrong. When kickers have to improvise, they're at greater risk. When passers and passing posturers have to ad lib, they're still pretty much made of glass. Three, things kickers and passers can and can't do. For a sport we in America call football, you'd think there would be a lot more kicking. But in fact, there are important limits on who may kick a ball, from where, and how often. In a typical game today, from middle school through college, there's far more passing going on than kicking. Yet, for passing, there are important limits as well on who may pass, from where, and how often. This is where the rules treat kickers and passers differently, differences that officials fail to understand at our peril. Okay, so who may kick a ball? It's actually quite easy to remember who may not kick a ball. No one on Team B and no one on Team A who has crossed the neutral zone. A return kick is illegal, 6310B, and makes the ball dead immediately. A return kick is defined as one made by a player of the team in possession after a change of possession, 216-8, and it too makes the ball dead immediately. So it's clear that no one on Team B may ever kick the ball, but then someone on Team A may not do so either if his team gets the ball back during the same down. In 46 years of refereeing games from middle school through college, I have never seen a return kick. But if I ever do, or if you ever do, you'll know what to do. To be clear, it's appropriate to remind you at this point that this discussion is about illegal kicks, not about illegally kicking the ball. Those are different fouls. A punt from beyond the neutral zone is an illegal kick. Intentionally putting your foot to a loose ball on the ground is illegally kicking. The penalty for a return kick is 5 yards from the spot of the foul, 7310B. The penalty for illegally kicking the ball is 10 yards and a loss of down if by Team A, with one exception, from the basic spot. Okay, then who may pass a ball? It's also quite easy to remember who may not pass the ball forward. Any Team A player who has crossed the neutral zone, and certainly no Team B player. The closest the rules book comes to defining a legal forward pass is in 731, which states rather simplistically that, quote, Team A may make one forward pass during each scrimmage down before team possession changes, provided the pass is thrown from a point in or behind the neutral zone. End quote. In 732, the rules book clarifies by essentially defining a legal forward pass by specifying all the ways a forward pass is illegal. None of those ways involves a player from Team A being prohibited from throwing a forward pass. The prohibitions involve where the player is, or when he does so, or why he does so. Now, the next set of provisions: where must a player be to kick the ball? To make a legal scrimmage kick, a player must execute a punt, drop kick, or place kick to 16-2, 3, and 4 before his entire body and the ball have ever been beyond the neutral zone, 2-3-10C. Unlike the foul for a return kick, an illegal kick beyond the neutral zone does not make the ball dead. And where must a player be to pass the ball? To make a legal forward pass, a player must throw the ball with his entire body and the ball never having been beyond the neutral zone when he releases the ball, 732A, before a change of possession. An illegal pass of this type does not make the ball dead. And now the how often questions. How often may a player kick the ball? A scrimmage kick that fails to cross the neutral zone continues in play, and all players may catch or recover the ball, 631A. The only action that makes a scrimmage kick illegal is if it is made by Team B or by Team A beyond the neutral zone, 6310C. So Team A may execute a legal kick again if its player catches or recovers a kick that has not crossed the neutral zone. How often may a player pass the ball? A team may make one forward pass during the down before a change of possession, 731 and 732D. Commonalities: kickers and passers are generally treated the same way. Only Team A players may kick and pass a ball, and kickers must kick and passers must pass from in or behind the neutral zone. Difference? There's only one difference, but it's a doozy. A kicker may make multiple kicks under certain circumstances, but a passer, or rather his team, may throw a forward pass only once under all circumstances. If you're thinking some of this stuff is really far-fetched, well, think again. Once I have seen a play with a second punt, but that one time was in a playoff game many years ago. It was so long ago that I was working as the head linesman in a 5-person crew with a veteran referee. The defense blocked a punt in such a way that it did not cross the neutral zone, a determination, I may add, that was my responsibility to make as the head linesman. The ball bounced back to the punter, who obviously learned something from the Garo Yepremian pass in Super Bowl VII. The punter kicked it again, and we had a routine punt return after that. I'll admit that I wasn't sure the second punt was legal. Fortunately, the referee knew this rule, and that's why veteran referees work playoff games. I learned the rule that day, to state the obvious. I may add, as an aside, that I was in the LA Coliseum that day when Garo Yepremian put the Dolphins' perfect season in jeopardy with his ill-considered pass and nearly gave me a heart attack. I first became aware that day, too, of the difference between a kicker and passer, to again state the obvious. I've shared with you the first of 15 pairs of rules that I've dubbed to be siblings separated at birth, but still highly engaged with each other. If you think of other rules pairs worth consideration, let me know. Our discussion of these sibling rivalries will be especially productive once we resume our live Rules Plus study group in just under a month. Until then, I hope you'll make this podcast a habit if you haven't already, a big part of your preparation for the season fast coming up on us. If you're not an AFOA member, I hope you'll consider joining us. Or, if you live elsewhere, consider joining your local Football Officials Association in your area. Our training for new members has already started, so don't delay if you're interested in joining AFOA. Email us at recruiting@afoa.ws, visit our website at www.austinfootballofficials.org, or call us at 512-298-2987. Till next time, have a great week.